が過ぎ風遊び誰の憧れにさまよう青空に残された私の心は夏模様夢が覚め夜の中
All right, welcome back to the Boku Diaries. This week, me and Fire are back, but we have a little bit of a change of pace. Some would say a change of pace is a good thing for an experiment that takes a month, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. First things first, I got really sick. I have pneumonia, and that's why this is a week late. And this is why I'm going to mute my microphone a bunch, because I'm coughing a lot still. But I'm definitely getting better, and everything's good. I don't get to walk around as shirtless as my Boku right now, but other than that, it's good. And the first thing I want to talk to you about, Fire, of course, is that you released a game in the middle of this, between our first and second episodes. Tell people about your game, Arco.
Yeah, first I wanted to say that it was not a great idea to do many of these things at the same time. I also
it's August. We couldn't skip August.
Yeah, I also recently had a new baby, so also like it's just like a month and a half old. So all of the things are just like at the same moment. But yeah, the game. It's out now. It was released, I mean, it depends when you're listening to this, but like it was released on August 15th, and it's been, by the time that we're recording this, like a week out. And it's a game, it's really difficult to explain. I mean, I'm gonna do my best, and I know it by heart, but it's the more I explain it, the more weird it gets. So I always start by saying that to me it feels like a JRPG, like, we like to do that on games. Because it's an JRPG. It's an point and click adventure, you know, or like just an adventure with like combat and skills and all of those things that come with RPG combat, you know. And Arco is the same. The difference is, or the big one is, the combat has it is like a combination, like something in between turn-based and action, you know, like. You control your characters, you move them around, you do the actions you want them to do. But it's not you don't control them with a controller and move them around and click buttons. You have to choose the things that you want them to do. Like at the middle of the combat, it passes, and then it allows you to like decide what you want your characters to do. You can see what the enemies or like the things that are there want to do, and then everything resolves at the same time in like a second, and then it passes again and allows you to think again and do that. So it feels like kind of like a Matrix super hot kind of situation when you're like, you don't control the time, it just happens, is how it's structured. But it feels like you see bullets coming towards you, or arrows, or like enemies are gonna attack you, and you have a moment, and it's endless, the moment that you can wait there as much as you want before you choose your action. And then you say, like, I'm going to move here or shoot there, and then it happens and it goes again. And this is a small team. We're working for a couple years, like, full-time on this. And it's a 4-people team, like, on the core. Artist is from Poland. Main programmer is from Australia. The musician is from Spain, and I'm from Mexico, which mainly did programming, but also, like, help with, like, story and game design and other things. And it's a long game for us. It's 10 to 15 hours. It can be longer if combat gets hard for you and you have to do it a lot of times, or if you're trying to do one of the like longer paths in the game, but because it has decisions and it can like take you in different like parts of the game. And if you like JRPGs or pixel art, because it's a pixel art game, if you like it's, I don't like saying tactical because it's not as strategic. It is in a way, but it's not as other games that like are like kind of defined on a grid and stuff. You know, like it's kind of a little bit more floaty. But if you like any of the things that I'm saying, I just go and get the demo. It's gonna be, we removed it, but it's gonna be there again because there is no better way to like check. The demo is the first 2 to 3 hours of the games, and the saves carry on Steam. So you can just go there, test it out. If it's for you, you can buy it and play the full thing. If it's not, you know, because if you see videos or watch screenshots or something, I don't think, or listen to me talk about it, I don't think it does the best. It's not, it's something that you need to feel for yourself and see if it's for you. But yeah, we're super happy about like it's been well received. Edge magazine gave us a 9 out of 10, which I hear is quite uncommon. Yeah, and people that have been playing and finished it up to now have been like praising it a lot. We haven't, sadly, it hasn't sold that much as we expected, being like a big project for us as it is. But again, like we're super proud and excited to see it out and the people playing it and like saying nice things about it.
Nice, and I can have a bunch of more other projects to kind of go in parallel and culminate in just the same month again.
Yeah, exactly.
But so, as I alluded to in my brief intro, I think that switching things up and bringing in new elements to a formula is always exciting. And I am feeling now, over halfway through Boku no Natsuyasumi 2, that I kind of wanted more new things to happen, and that I feel that the repetitiveness has started to show itself. I think that by playing it mostly once a day, that we staved that off for a while. Like, yes. Different, it is different than if we had, done a bunch of long playthroughs, but it's still gaining on me this sense of like becoming a chore to play this game. Yeah, how do you feel about it?
Just a little bit before, if someone is listening to this out of context, there is another episode that we did before where we talk about the game, about like what Boku no Natsuyasumi, which is the main point of this discussion, is about, specifically the second one, Boku no Natsuyasumi 2, because a new translation released recently, and we're playing it in August, which is where the game canonically happened. It happens over the month of August in 1975 in a little coastal town in an island near Japan. And again, go listen to that first because it's gonna make a lot of things more clear. Yes, do listen to
this in order. Yes.
Yeah. Don't skip that because it's really important. Okay, so yeah, I think I'm feeling the same as you. I wanted to ask you, have you started to play slowly? Have you changed the settings? So
I have not. I was, I remember I mentioned that I was thinking about doing that in the last episode, and I did have every intention of doing so, but as soon as I played a couple more days after what we were discussing here last time, I was like, no, I maybe kind of want to get through this faster. maybe this is enough, because I started having a few days where like I felt like I was done earlier, which is how I found out something interesting that we were confused about in our first episode, is why we couldn't do morning exercises. Yeah. It turns out that if you just go to bed early, you will wake up early and just do the exercise. It's just a little FMV. It's different from the first game where it's an actual activity. So the thing is, I didn't know I could just end the day and go to bed. So so what I used to do is just at some point, your aunt would call you to go to bed, and you'd be like tired, and your head would be falling over. And it turns out that's not the right way to do it. You should just go to bed earlier, and you'll sleep for fewer hours every night.
I also kind of like, now that you mentioned that, because if that happens, if you get tired, and I haven't checked exactly at what time it happens, but it happens at the same time. When you're awake, your character starts to like wobble its head, and then like you appear in the room, and then your aunt tells you to like write your like diary and then go to sleep. Yeah. But the same happens at the middle of the day, at evening, when you have to go to eat dinner.
Yes.
But if you're far away, your uncle appears in the location where you are, and he says like, oh, it's time to eat, and then you're transported back to the thing. But if you're near the house, or like in the house, I think you just hear your aunt is yelling like, food is ready, come. And it's really interesting to see like those little variations of like the systemic thing that forces things to happen in the way that it should happen.
And sometimes I'm walking back to the house because I can tell it's the end of the day, but I won't get there because there's too many screen transitions, cuts. Which I started getting a little bit annoyed with that as well. Because sometimes I wanted to get something done that maybe it was in the fortunes from Hikari or something like that, and I was like, going from the stairs of the house to the second floor will take 15 minutes, just as much as like walking from the house to your neighbors. And it's
Yeah.
kind of like, these screens are not the same. They should not take the same amount of time. So sometimes I would be hard pressed to fit everything I wanted in a day. And then other times I would do a couple of things and then not want to do the rest of my day, really. Just I'd be kind of like walking around like, I don't want to fight beetles. I don't want to fish. I don't want to do that. There's no new bugs I'm finding right now. And I don't know where the rocket is. And things like that. Some new things did happen, the bridge. Now there's a bridge to another side of the forest there. You can explore a little bit more forest. I ran into like this place where you can knock over a sign and have it be a little bridge, so you can just gives you a way to walk
It
back
gives
to
it
another
opens the
place.
same area, but like from other part. Because I was gonna say, based on the things that you were mentioning about like the camera changes or the location changes, I think there are some ideas in some areas that you feel like there is a shortcut, and if you're like you have memorized everything, it like, oh, if I want to go there, it's easier to swim here and jump out in there than doing these other things. And then from last time we talked about like the manual thing, I googled a little bit to see. I didn't find it, but I found like a page or two, and one said like, beware of the bees. And I think it said something like it's a shortcut back home or something like that. It had like a little.
Oh, so it does think about that as a shortcut.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It was explained in a note there, like as a side thing to be like, this can be like a shortcut back home.
Oh,
if you
cool.
need it.
Yeah, because as soon as you get the bridge, you also get like a wasp's nest that works the same as the.
Yeah, there are like
as
three, I
bees
think,
nest.
right?
Maybe.
I think I've seen three.
Yeah.
I was asking about like if you have changed that, because I started playing slow, like since the beginning I played slow, which allowed me to do much things. Like if you go back to the first episode, we discussed that a lot. Like I advanced more stories because I had more time, and I recommended that. But like I've been changing it to quick or like regular a lot now, because sometimes I get the same. Sometimes I go with Hickory and ask about like what should I do, and it's things that I have already done. Like,
Yeah,
it
most
keeps
of the
telling
days.
me,
Yeah, most of the days I get like 3 things that I've already done, and sometimes it's something, and the 4th thing is like maybe something I haven't done, but she already
Vague.
told me to do, and I just didn't have time or didn't know exactly what it meant. But I think one of the things that gets me with what we're talking about here is that it seems like the game wants you to min-max some things, like make sure you know the map really well so you can take the fastest way to each thing, so you can really use your day well. And it doesn't punish you because it's not that kind of game, but the most it can do to punish you, it does, which is when you write in your journal that nothing special happened, you feel like you just disappointed this child in your video game. And it invited a nice philosophical question that I wanted to ponder with you, which is, does every day of summer vacation need to be special for a child? And I don't think it does when you're a child. I think we talked about this, how it felt endless, and really, you're not trying to just squeeze the most memories and great dopamine hits out of being a kid in summer. But I think the game, because it is something that's clearly made for adults, kind of wants this to be this platonic ideal of a summer vacation, or this condensation of all good summer vacations ever into 1 month. And so it kind of, in some way, it does put this pressure on you, or did it not put this pressure on you?
Yeah, I think also me being the kind of player that I am, which is, I'm not a completionist in the sense of I need to do 100% of the things, but I try to find as much as I can when I'm like on a classical RPG. I try to like, I know this is the right path, so I'll go back and explore the not right path to see if there are items or some like story beats or something, and then I continue the story. But in this case, you can't do that, because if you go out of your way to do something else, it's gonna take time off of you. So you have to prioritize the things that you really want to do. If not, it's gonna just take too much, or you're gonna skip a day. I haven't really gotten the diary thing you mentioned. What was it?
Oh, so you just want to say that you play real well. It's like, I haven't had a one bad day, friend.
I have, because I had more time.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I'm like, because I see the things that I could do, or like the to-dos that Hikari tells me, and I do the both. I do the one at night, so I know what to aim for the next day, and I do the one at the day after I see that some of those are repeated, so I try to do them, and then I see the other thing. And so I always discover something new, but sometimes I've found the situation where like dialogues are repeating, which was something that didn't happen for the first kind of like week and a half or something. I also was feeling like, well, nothing is gonna happen. I got excited about the new area opening, but I kind of like just also did things there, and I was like, all right, seems like.
I expected more from the new area. I'll be honest. Like I thought there would be more.
Like,
there.
it's interesting. There's a lot. Like immediately, if you start to catch bugs, those are
new.
there's
new bugs. Yeah,
and then you find new beetles and stuff, and it's fine. And then your cousins start to go there as well, and you have some random conversation with them somewhere else. Like you can see why that impacts. At the end, it's like a very little place, and there is something that I still like open ended in that area, because there's like a house there that, yeah, you can. I guess you can go and find someone there. I have gotten to the like near the house, but I haven't seen anyone there, and I kind of know who it is because of how the story has been progressing, but I haven't found them yet. But yeah, coming back to the idea of the summer, the perfect summer, I think it's also like our adult brain trying to like do that, and the min-maxing general idea of a game, not specifically this. I think the developers just let you do whatever, and I'm guessing, and I kind of remembering from like Tim Rogers' big video about the first one, that like you can just go to sleep every day immediately, and there's probably like you did nothing, and that like an ending there, because at the end, when you finish your story, it has many different ways it can end. I think I'm guessing there is a way to do the perfect one. I don't know if you have to do everything, which because I discovered the exercise thing really late, like almost like 3 days ago or something on my game. Then I have been doing a couple of times, but like I'm not completing that thing, so it's like mostly empty. And other things, maybe the story bits, I feel like I'm like on top of them. I'm not sure I'm gonna capture all the fishes, because I don't have a way to tell if that even means anything. I haven't been able to catch the big one, and there have been some hints about it from Hikari and fishing that I haven't really understood what to do. And the bugs, I'm not feeling the pressure to do them all, because it's also like kind of difficult to understand where they are, of like if I'm missing, because sometimes you're like another butterfly that is white, and it's like it was a different one, but it's impossible to tell. I don't want to be capturing all of the bugs that I find everywhere. I think I'm like 70 to 80% complete on them, and the other ones are like, I don't know if I related to, like, I don't know if the bees or wasp, for example, need to be caught in some special way. I don't know if there are some, like, I understand that the change of times in different areas changes the insects. I've seen some days that the cicadas, cicadas is the name? Well, the bugs that make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
They are like quite loud, so I thought that those days maybe one special one is somewhere, but I'm not sure. I know I don't have all the beetles because I've seen the kids use other beetles that I don't have, but I don't feeling the pressure for that. I kind of feeling the pressure of the stories because I kind of want to know more about them, and so I'm trying to do as many of those things as I can during the time that I'm there. Most of the other things, it's fine. I think I'm good with not having all the fishes, all the exercises, discovering all the things. But at least I kind of want to follow the stories of the characters, because at the center I think that's the center of this game. It's just the humans in the middle and their stories.
That's good, because that brings me to the other thing I want to talk about. I think I agree with you in that, in my experience, the most interesting thing about this game is just the stories progressing and interacting with characters. And I think the last few days that really made me feel kind of bored with the game were because they had very little story. There's like almost no dialogue during breakfast and dinner, or very very little dialogue, sometimes no dialogue. the stories outside of like the Ghost Girl didn't really progress on a day-to-day basis, or maybe like it started progressing but it kind of stopped because like there's Grandpa, the doctor there's a little bit of a story with him being kind of feeling a little bit sick and things like that. Your neighbor's mom coming to town, things like that, but it's kind of like it's taking a while to develop there. So and I contrasted that with how little interest I am having in the most gamey parts of Boku. So like I don't care about collecting the bottle caps. I've kind of like given up on the bugs. I really don't enjoy watching those beetles fight. It's like you're not doing anything. It's not really a game. You're just throwing beetles and waiting for it to happen.
I gamed that system and it made me win, but it's like at the end because it's not random. So like sometimes
I've had great days and very bad days and whatever. So I started thinking, and this is something I saw someone else say in a Discord I'm at, that the least interesting parts of Boku were the most video game-like parts of Boku. And I wanted to ask you, since you're a game developer, how do you approach something like this as a player with Boku and in the games that you've worked on? That there seems to be this real tight, hard to find balance between linearity for a player and how much you hold the player's hand through an experience that they can really enjoy and that you can really pace it out for them, and how much you just throw them into this world with different mechanical possibilities and let them explore. And I think that sometimes this game seems lost between two approaches here. Like it's trying to create this world where there are both, and there are many games that do this and do this well. But I think that this game is best when it approaches a way more linear, more storytelling interested level of design.
Yeah, I think just to answer your question about how to approach that, I think it depends a lot on the game, and I think they specifically do it something that it's kind of rare, like because they are the only ones making Boku no Natsuyasumi games in a way, and they have been like there's new ones happening now. So this is a game from
they're
like
really
20
specialists
years ago.
in this.
Yeah, but they're like, and they've been learning like again, like this is like the second on this saga, but I think they made a couple other in the between the first and this, or at least one that is plays with the same systems, but like, and we discussed that also on the first episode. I kind of like how it's structured because again I'm following the right path in a way. I'm getting the stories as they're happening, etc. So I think I'm seeing the things as things make sense. But like for example, if you delay some important conversation with some characters for the first part of the game because you're doing the gaming stuff, and then you happen to have that by the very end and they don't finish. Like, because sometimes the scripted important day events have priority over the other ones that are developing. I think there is an opportunity. You should make it, like, I think as a developer, you should have a way of like, what if because how it's structured is every day if you talk to someone, they have something to say, at least 2 lines. There was a conversation on the Discord that I'm playing that there are some characters that have more, but I can always, like most of the time it's 2, like the main one and then a secondary one to the main one, or like a side thing that they repeat every day, and then that's it. Like they keep repeating the second time to tell you that they don't have anything else to say in that location, in that moment, in that day, because sometimes they move and that makes them change. Like for example, if you go to the mom at evening when she's cooking, then she's always gonna be the same. She's always says the same in the same place. Like the uncle most of the time says the same thing at the beginning of the game because he's only like laying like near the house and he's always talking about like fishing. Recently, because he changed locations, he's been saying different stuff daily. The cousins most of the time say something different. Hikari, for example, most of the times it's just about the fortune teller because she's a system character. There are others that are waiting for you to do something before they continue their thing, like they get stuck on something, and I think there are not so many characters. There are gonna be like 15 probably in the like since the beginning to the end. I don't think I'm on day 19 right now, so I don't think I have. It doesn't seem like there's gonna be another character really, and well, the one that I'm missing that I know it's been mentioned, but it hasn't shown himself. Other than that, I think that's gonna be it. I don't think there's gonna be someone new. Maybe your parents at the end, obviously, because that's how things seems that are aiming towards to. So it's difficult to create a lot of that. Dialogue is simple. Most of the time, it's just like a couple thoughts and that's it. But it's still like you have to do 31 like sequential conversation plus the like important event ones plus other kind of similar situations. So it's kind of a lot of work to handle that thing without like having something that pushes you forward and that is not being able to return. Because again, I think if you delay most of those conversations, I don't know if you talk to one character on the 15 and through different saves, they say the same thing, or if they have a counter of like, you have talked to me 5 times, by the 5th time I have to say this, like that's the two ways that I think it could happen, or maybe they do both depending on some things. So it's a scramble of many things that I don't even know how it works. It works for me as I'm seeing it display in front of me, the narrative unfolding and all that. It works. And I think I've been playing it the right way, but I'm sure if you play it the wrong way and you skip many things and you don't go to talk to them and all that, there's still ways that this thing develops. You just don't go as deeper with the characters as you do if you talk to them more. So just to come back to the original question, how do you do that? I don't really know. And like for my game, we have some like semblance of that, but it's like cooking, like how do you like to cook and the kind of food that you like to eat and the kind of food that you expect the people that like this kind of dish will consume. So you put the spices that make sense for that, and you hope that you nail it. But sometimes you put like you can follow a recipe. Like if you're trying to do something that is already established in a way, you can copy those steps and hope that it works the same way. But I think at some point you gotta add your own like specific thing to flavor it on your own way, more so if you're like trying to have a statement about something. So it's an impossible answer, like to be like, obviously you just do this and that's it, like like it has to feel. But I think I'm like, we're playing it in this way, and you said at the beginning that it's 1 day a day, and if you play it slow, it's like 45 minutes, maybe 50. It's not like the whole hour, unless you like devote a lot of time onto like beetle fighting or something that can take long times and it doesn't move the time in the game. But you train it fast or like regular, I think it's more like half an hour. But like the only day that I've done 2 days in a row, it felt boring because you're just doing the same over and over again. So I think it has this is the only way to do it, but it's kind of a difficult ask for like a regular consumer / player out there at the time. And I think right now, I mean, at the time, maybe it was more common to use games to play a game the whole summer or like a whole month or something. But nowadays, people finish them quite quickly. And I don't think this game is enjoyable if you do that. I don't see how you can, because it's kind of samey and you start to like blur the things.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And one of the things that I've been thinking about is that even when I am after what interests me the most, which is, like you said, the dialogues, like just sometimes like just walking around trying to find everyone I want to find and talk to just kind of gets on my gears. And just I started thinking about that if I played this throughout maybe a whole year, maybe on weekends, sometimes skipping a weekend, that this would be a great place to visit, and that the only thing that I think would keep me from playing at least this specific game, I don't know how the further ones deal with this, is that there's a lack of an actual log of dialogue. Like a more complete diary could work as that. I don't know if you played Shenmue 2, But Shenmue 2, you have this little notebook where since you can have a lot of different quests going on and you can talk to a lot of different people, you go back there and everything that is important will have been written down. So it's like, oh, talk to someone. They told me to go this place. Oh, someone said that this book might be in this place. And so it was a game that I would play kind of like that, of like, oh, maybe it's like a Sunday, I'm not doing anything. I'm gonna check back into that world. It's fun to walk around and kind of be in that ambiance, and I can pick back up from where I was because I can just read the diary and kind of be back in place. I don't think that would. Like, I would have to have some very good memories of everything I did in my last playthrough of Boku to kind of just go back and do that. So I think that in part it is a very, let's say, for lack of a better word, it's a very realistic way of depicting this. Is like your aunt's place is not new anymore. The places around your aunt's place are not new anymore. It kind of becomes your playground, and you're very familiar with that. But that also takes some of the excitement that was there in the first, maybe week of playthrough. So I'm kind of having this feeling of like wanting to get through it. Which kind of sucks, I guess. But I think it's valid. It's not something I thought I would have felt in the beginning of this, and so it's interesting that this very specific way we decided to play through this game is bringing us here, and it's very interesting that we're getting to document this.
And I think it's
podcast.
important. I think it also it happened by mistake, but our original plan was to record for at the end of every week and discuss our findings. And I think skipping the second one and then just going directly to we're 2/3 or something like that, and let's discuss about this. It's more interesting to me than if and I think we can touch and we will touch on some of the things that happen for each of us in a little way, but not in the methodical way that we did before. And I think it opens us for the just finishing it, because I also feeling I just kind of want to see these things through and then see what's gonna happen at the end, and then have that discussion, just how it finished for us, and how do we feel about being experiencing this kind of game in this kind of way. But yeah, I think it if we did this last time and we discussed things, I think it would have felt a little bit boring to do it again in an exercise. So I think we, by luck, ended up in a situation which I think it's better for explaining what kind of game this is. I'm hoping, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think because we had this delay on the second episode, we decided to not do the same diary kind of format we did in the first episode, because it'd be too many days, and I think that's good. I think that it's very illustrative of the beginning of the game, having done it that way, and I think it works because we were both taking notes day by day. But I kind of like that we're approaching different stages of our experience in different ways. So I know that our third episode of the conclusion is probably going to be very different in structure than the first two episodes. So I think that we having this plasticity also helps, because it's not something that is set in stone, and it's something that we're finding the best way to have it be about the things we want to talk about with this game. And I think there's now a familiarity, not just because of the time we put into it, but because of the structure of the game itself, where most of it seems to have revealed itself for us now, and that it is very clear, this gameplay loop in front of us, and kind of how far it's going to explore. Although there are things that I am still very curious about. There was a mention of a wolf man, and that's all I know about that thing, and I haven't progressed that.
I've been talking about, I know, I kind of know who he is, but
okay.
I haven't seen him.
Oh yeah, I have not as well. I've heard of him, but
yeah, there's a discussion. I think that happens over dinner. Do you wanna? I don't know if there is something else that you want to discuss in general, about our feelings or thoughts.
No, those were my basic two things. Was okay. How it's getting repetitive, and kind of how the game parts of it are the most repetitive, and how I think it maybe wants you to treat this experience that it is, of course, like you said, it's pretty open ended about what are you going to do. Like the developers don't limit you on how you're going to experience this summer month, but I think there's ways that they just give you more if you play a certain way.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of just to like complement that idea or like add to it is you ask about this log, and it technically can be done. Like it's like it's easy, or you can just do it on your own with a notebook. Like as we've been taking notes, you kind of know like what else you want to check or everything. But if they did it systemic, I think that will be too much for this kind of game. That's why my biggest question about like the fish and the bug system. Like if you play Animal Crossing, everything behaves the same. Like the bugs, everything is like a new thing that you haven't gotten, and when you get it, you can give it into the place, and it like all of them are the same because they're like collectibles that are just of a different flavor, fishes and so in here you have the photos in a way that are collectibles, the caps that are also collectibles, the fish and the bugs, but they all are different. The photos are only one menu, and same as the caps, and the photos are more like a narrative thing that happens like on some kind of events. And then you have the caps that I thought were just like a weird collection thing, but then I discovered that they actually add breathing time for the swimming thing. So the more caps you have, like that's why when you discover one in the water, like it refills your breathing thing, and it adds a couple shine. So
cool.
It was apparent. I have like 17 right now, and it was made apparent like by when I have like 10 to 12 or something. I discovered like,
you know how many
that's why it's easier to swim around. It's because I have more time to do it now because they are giving me this. I discovered that you can actually also like, and I'm not sure how it works. Like if you can find the 25 around the world, or because if you buy a soda in your aunt's things, you get one. So so maybe you
that's
can,
a way to get that more breeding without having.
Yeah, if you
them.
haven't found most of them.
Because I found one. I still just found one. And I kind of gave up on actively looking for them. Like if I stumble upon one, I'll grab it. You even told me where one is. I already forgot it. I don't really care. But I think it's very interesting, and it's commendable in my view that there's this different system for every collectible. Really, that collecting the bugs is different from collecting the caps. That's different from fishing different types of fish. That's different from the actual beetles that you fight. I think that it helps with a game that is very much a collectathon to differ itself and to kind of in that way to cater to different players. So it's like, you're not that into the bugs, no problem. Maybe you're into the fishing, and if you're not into how the fishing works, maybe you're into finding bottle caps, or maybe you're into this other thing. So I think that helps a lot. It helps me also in days where I'm kind of bored to kind of feel that there's some variety in what I'm doing. Of like, well, I didn't fish yesterday. I only caught bugs, so I'm going to fish today. So it's a little bit different. It's still not, I don't know how to, it's not as interactive maybe, or as skill-based. That's what I want to say. It's not as skill-based as maybe I want it to be, even though that I'm usually a very a low skill player of most things, but still I feel like a little bit of more mechanical complexity would have been nice to have some depth on something.
Or just some information of like at the end. What I like sometimes about collectathons is when they more or less hint stuff. Like I kind of want to know how many fishes there are, and if like I'm fishing on a place that I shouldn't be because I have enough, or like I have all of them here. Should I go somewhere else instead? Like those kind of things help me try to achieve to get everything, because the systems allow me to know the boundaries of themselves, and that it's good for because I don't want to waste time, because I don't have time. So I'm all invested. I will want to know what is at the end of fishing everything, or finding these specific fishes or fish that you need. But if the game is not making it easier, and I just have to stumble upon it like as the caps, then I'm be like, you know what, I'm not gonna engage with this like they do with the bugs, because I think the bugs have that, like it's interesting because the bugs you just capture them and that's it, other than the beetle that you have to like do the special different way. But like the fishes have like this all different baits and stuff, and locations and all that. But it's like the way they are recorded is completely different. And the bugs, it's because you have this project as a kid to like do something with them, and then the beetle fight. So it opens in different ways, and the fishes don't really have that, and it's just like
there's
there.
one bit of dialogue of like, maybe if you catch a really big fish, we'll eat the fish. But it's like, I don't know what kind of fish it has to be, where I can find that kind of fish. Yeah, I think a lot of this stuff maybe would have been clear if we had the manual. And again, we'll try to find it before the next episode, so we can maybe go through that and go, it's all in here.
Yeah,
But,
I saw an image of the general, like the complete map that someone posted from the manual. So you have access to the map in the manual, because in the game you have just like, you can only see like areas around you. Yeah. And it's a cartoony map. It's not like one of those other games that does like a really architectural split of
right. Yeah, just black and white and just numbers of like, this is here and this is here
and in this case it's mostly like a drawing of a kid of a location.
But it still works. It still helps you know find
which
yourself.
Things are around, and if it seems like there is a road somewhere else, you can mostly take it. Anyway, do you want to jump to story beats, or is there anything else? Maybe like systemic or other things that you like, for example, this swimming thing about like more breeding I discovered after. I haven't really discovered anything related to like bug catching or like fishing really. And the other thing when you swim, we talk about like this animation of like him pulling his pants. If you press a button, the action button, that's actually if you're near a fish, you grab it.
Oh.
You don't keep it. I don't know if you can try to bring it to somewhere, but you can grab it. You can if you're close to some. And I thought at the beginning that it was a mistake, like I was mistaking some animation for other. But then I've done it enough times that I've seen him grabbing the fish.
Oh, that's nice. I thought there had to be some way to interact with them, because there's a bunch of 3D fish around when you're swimming. So nice to know. No, I think that covers what I wanted to cover this week. I think what is really on my mind right now is something I want to talk to you when we're done for the next episode. Once we've done the month, is how much we've gotten out of the experience, I think, on an emotional level, but I think it's probably going to be best in retrospect. So the first thing I just wanted to mention again is that I found out how to be part of the exercises, so that was a big deal for me that I got to test that. I was like, I think that's because I went to bed early, and it certainly was.
Somebody told me that on the Discord. They were talking about it, and I said, like, how did you do it? Like, I've been meaning to find how, and then he told me, and I was like, that makes sense. And then I did it.
I still, one other thing I just saw here, I have no idea what the cursed fortune or great fortune will mean.
I still think that it's related to like your fights and the kind of bugs that you find and other stuff. I think if you have a lucky day, it's probable that those random things favor you, and if you have a cursed day, the random things will like not be favored. Like it's gonna be like 60-40 or 40-60 or something instead of 50-50.
I don't think so here, because you said that, and I find here that there was one day where I had great fortune, but I won one fight and lost two. And there was another day where I had cursed fortune and I won 4 fights. So I don't think
it makes you win, but I think it makes you, maybe because I gamed the Beatles game, I've seen sometimes like I lose, and then just by doing the same thing over and over again, sometimes I win. So that sometimes your Beetle reacts differently, like to some attacks, or sometimes the other Beetle doesn't do like the special moves they call. So it depends a lot on like. So I was thinking maybe that, but who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe we'll see in the future.
I'm really torn on these mechanical mysteries of the game for us, because first of all, we don't have the menu, so we know the manual, so we don't even know which of these mysteries were supposed to be mysteries at all. And but just taking this at face value and how we're dealing with it, part of it is frustrating for me. Part of it is nice, because it kind of frees me from actually just obsessing over it. It's like, I don't know how it works, so I'll just interact with it however I feel like it.
And if you find it, like the like things that I have found, or like you mentioned the exercises, I think it's cool. Which is another thing that
when you figure it out on your
yeah.
own, it's really good. When
you
the game
connect
just
some
gives
ideas and
you
like,
enough.
oh, maybe this is related to that, and then you test
Yeah.
it, and it's like, yeah, it is related to that. It's really cool. So I think
Exactly.
we're not used to. That's something that happened all the time with video games, and was an important part of playing like this.
Well, especially I believe so. I think in Mexico as well as in Brazil, we were both very much exposed to games through piracy. So manuals were not a thing.
No,
So-
and also English. It's not our main language.
Also that
So
if you did
like,
have an
sometimes you
actual
play
legit
stuff-
copy of a game, you didn't know how to read the manual. So it was usually really cool illustrations of the characters and kind of that. Yeah, you're right. So the other two mysteries of mechanics that I have written down here is that let me see. Okay, so I did the watering of the vine so that
Yes.
your vine grows faster than your cousin's vines, but then it just withered away one day.
I think
Even though I was watering it every day.
I think it blooms at a specific time of the day, and then it like closes a little bit. Because I've seen it like kind of bad, and then it comes back. So I think it's one of those like flowers that
What
opens
happened
and
to me
closes.
was that it was very withered one day, and like Boku noticed it. If I pressed the action button, he's like, "Oh no, it died." And the next day, it was all back to. It was greener, but it was back to all of them being the same height and lower than they were
Interesting,
before.
because I've been like, I haven't noticed any changes between them because I always water all of them.
Yeah.
But I noticed that it looks really nice, and I think at some point my aunt went there and she mentioned something about it. But yeah,
And also, I still take baths, even though
I haven't.
I don't think they.
I did it once.
I know
and
that
then-
there's a story beat with a bath that you can take a bath with someone, and there's a scene that happens. But it's.
I think
that's
you.
all.
I think I
So I
remember
know.
from the other game that you can like bathe with your cousins or something at some point.
Yes, I think in the other one you bathe with your cousin. This one you bathe maybe with the neighbor. I think I don't know. But yeah, I thought I saw someone else talking about it when it happened to them. But that's kind of it. Like I really like even
Story-
like not go. I
we
wouldn't
can
go
discuss
through my
story.
diaries even if we hadn't changed the format really here, because it's a lot of the same. It's
Yeah.
it's not really interesting.
So we opened a new area that is called Okusawa. That happens is like your uncle sometimes notices, like it happens in many places that the because there was a big storm, like the bridges connecting areas like they were destroyed. So he's trying to do it, and he does it the next day, and he opens that area, and then you can like go full circle and discover these other places where you can swim and fish, and you find like a not windmill but like a watermill is the name. What
A
is
watermill,
the-
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And then there is another moment. I don't know if this has happened to you yet, but at some point your uncle mentions an axe that he left on
Yes.
his tool shed, and if you go, you can grab it. And then if you grab it, which is the most kid thing that you can do, but judging by your face, you probably haven't done that.
I have not done. But I have found the tree because playing this game in 4K in an emulator
Makes it really
makes
obvious.
the one 3D tree really stand out.
And it's
from
also
the
like the
others.
way it's like put on top
Yeah.
of its base. It's
Yeah, it's
very
there's a clear
noticeable.
division of like, oh, this 3D model goes like this.
It's a it's a prop. It's like kind of like when cartoons are gonna interact with something, it's interactable kind of
Yeah.
thing.
There's one person
I
in
thought
one
you
of
could
the.
kick it because you kick the trees with the beetles.
I
but
knew
it never
exactly what it
happened.
was when I saw it because there's one person in one of the Discords I'm at that is playing the first one because they speak Japanese. So they decided to take this month to play the first one. And in the first one, there's the exact same thing. You can grab a saw and cut a tree, so it becomes a bridge to a place. So I knew that happened in the first one, and I was keeping up with that, and I was like, I wonder if that happens in ours. And first there was your uncle, breaking down the one
other
light
one.
pole to make a bridge, and I was like, oh, I guess in this one they have your uncle do it, whatever. But then I ran into that tree, and I was like, ooh, and then I just haven't gotten back to grab the axe and just
Yeah, because you go into the axe and he mentions there. I left my axe there because he does it after the other bridge and
Yeah.
like don't touch it. and then one of the cousins says something and like, no, I mean it something, and then so you go and you talk to you interact with the axe and you grab it. And then it doesn't. You don't have it, or like you maybe
right. You just use it in that.
And then when you go and talk to the tree, you want to use it, and you say yes, and then it opens another thing, which it's more of the other location. So that house that you see from the watermill, that's how I got there, and I haven't seen the Wolfman, which I don't know. You when they mention him, it's because he's Io's father, the Rocket Kid.
Oh, okay.
He has a father that is not there. He mentions at some point, because they have a conversation. I went to the house and there's a note saying, "I forgot my pants. Please bring them when you come or something." And then I talked to the kid and he mentions, "I haven't been able to go to my father because there is no bridge."
Oh, okay.
But then now it's a bridge, but he still hasn't given him pants. So I'm not sure if he doesn't have pants and he has covering like something
Maybe
else.
you should find some pants and take it.
There is no pants. I tried on the house, like clicking around, and still the kid is more. Io is more like, we can have other stories, but Io is more interested in like that sister, the older sister, because they had a relationship and then it just kind of disappeared. And I've been following that thing. In my story, I put them together again, and they have had discussions about that.
Cool.
But coming on, you do that. You open another area, which opens other bugs and stuff, and you see some locations from other sides, which is kind of like Okusawa. It's just more of those areas that have more of the things that you already know are there.
Right.
And that specific house, that it's like a coal. I think he makes coal, for like from winter, and he has an oven and stuff, but like he hasn't been there really any time, and no one has. They only pointed at like the Wolfman. And when the other kids discuss about like, why did he call him that? Like, I don't know. They just call him that. And
cool.
Yeah. So I'm that's the only big mystery, because then the girl's mother comes, and I don't know if you've seen the whole thing, but like she eventually goes away.
Yeah, I haven't finished that. I think I've talked to her, and she's staying at the house, but
yeah, she stays with you. Well, at the house of like the guest house. She doesn't have a relationship with the older sister. They are like strange.
Yes, I've noticed that.
Yeah, and she has a relationship with the younger one. There's a day that they all got together, like in the house and with the kids, and they take a picture of all the kids in here.
Oh, cool.
And there's the summer, like the doctor is feeling bad, as you mentioned. And have you seen the sick girl on the clinic?
Yes, I finally started doing that. I think I've gone up and talked to her 3 times. I think the last time I talked to her was the massage. I gave her the massage. She gave me the 50 yen.
Yeah. So I think
I took a while to start that one, like, because you were already doing that last time we talked, and I haven't. It took me a few days to actually get, because the first time I tried to do it, since Hikari said evening, I thought it was like closer to night. And by the time I got there,
it's just when the light changes.
I realized that.
Closer to night, maybe like she goes away, because she's only there. The way to
it's
know
that
is
weird
like
thing.
Yeah,
it's a weird thing from like English classes when I was like little, and that they were trying to get me to understand the difference between afternoon and evening, and I was like, it's not really different. But it's like, but maybe. But by the time I'm 34 and I'm playing this English translation of Japanese video game, it becomes very specific. the transition between afternoon and evening.
Yeah, I think at the end, evening is afternoon, but afternoon is immediately afternoon.
Yes, yeah. The way I think, it kind of reminded me of actually what my teacher said when I was little, which I think, like, afternoon is the hours immediately after noon, and then evening is whatever's past.
When it starts
3,
to turn like basically night, but like there's still light, but you can see it like it's like going down, like sun is going down, and the moment it's down, it's just like night.
Yeah, I think that because in Portuguese there's no differentiation. It's all everything past noon is tarde, and so
that's noche.
Exactly. So
we have the same in Spanish, but we have used like when you want to meet someone like at around 7 or 6, which is evening. We just call it tarde noche, which is like in between.
It's in between. Yeah. No, here it's a very straight cutoff, which is 6. Is tarde, 7 is noche. That's it.
it's day. It's noche.
And there's a little bit of a thing that there's a few people that you will meet in your life. They're not common. Some of them will say 6 at night, and some of them will say 7 in the evening. But those people are wrong. Like 99% of people in Brazil stick to 6 is tarde, 7 is noite, and that
then
is
noon. The change from morning in Mexico to like tarde is like noon. Like if it's
noon.
12:01, then it's like and it's funny when
It's-
like it's still kind of early, but like if it's after, like if it's noon, like 12 something, and you say buenos dias to someone, like
no, boa tarde.
they will correct you and say
It is.
buenas
Yeah,
tardes.
same here. Same here. They will. And a very common thing for me is when I don't know exactly what time it is, you will have that conversation of like, "Bom dia," or is it? Or is it? Is it? What? No, it's 11:59. 11:59. It's bon dia.
And
Yeah.
there is a meme in like Mexico that is like buenos dias, and it's like tardes ya, which is like just it's
Yep.
good afternoon or whatever.
Yep.
Anyway, coming back, yeah, it's kind of rare because sometimes they say evening, sometimes they say night, and it matters if it's like early night, late night, evening,
Yep.
like. Before
And I feel
noon,
that-
it's like morning, but like afternoon, it's like noon time. But then
Because
I
of
don't know
this-
how long it is until it is noon still.
Yeah,
For
the
game.
problem with this game and everything it tells you to do in the evening is that that's a good thing. It reminded me of something that has weirded me out in this game from the beginning. These kids do not have lunch. So your game is uninterrupted between 8 in the morning, which is when you finish breakfast, and 6 or 7, which is when you go to dinner. So that means that most of your day is one way, which is the pretty much the what it considers day, which is the morning and afternoon light, and then it has like what 2 hours of evening time.
Yes.
Where it's getting, towards dusk and it changes. And there's a bunch of events that are related to that specific time. And that
Yeah, you have
time
to
is
aim to get
is
there
a-
before. Yeah.
yeah, it's a very short window of time. So that's one of the problems where I say the game is trying to get you to min-max. Of like, oh, you want to be in the clinic in the evening to talk to Ghost Girl? You better start going towards the clinic in the afternoon.
Yeah,
Because
because
you
you
won't
clinic,
have-
it doesn't
Yeah.
matter where you come from. It's also like you have to go to the entrance. You have to cross
Yeah.
the curve. Well,
You're
there's
gonna
two,
waste, like,
entrance
3
and then
screens.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like 3 or 4 screens, and then getting into the room of the girl. There was once that I
it's
thought
one
I
more,
was
yeah.
gonna miss it because of that. I talked to her like I don't know 10 times or whatever, and I got the whole story with her, and like I get to know who she was and why it happened and all of those things. It's quite like again like it's one of those things. Same happened with the mom. Like you talk to her, you get a deeper like understanding of her relationship with her situation and all that happened, and then it's like she goes like the mom, and then you're left with the kids and the other people there to keep having conversation and trying to understand them deeper. I've been liking the story beats because it's quite adult and deep. Like it's because the kids, the regular kids, like your cousins, they even have at some point there is a conversation about like your uncle not having a job, and that he will like to be. He built houses before, and they mention like, but he's not anymore because reasons. They don't explain it that much. And then at some point you go and ask him, and he doesn't tell you. He's just like refuses to. He's like ... or something, and then you keep asking, and he's like no. Because the kid changes the question that he asks. And he's like, it's because you don't like to be that. And he's like, no, I would like to be that. And like, what's going on with this guy? Like, he just explain to me what's going on with your... And then I talked to the cousin somewhere else. And they're like, there's one that said like, he would like to be a gym teacher because blah, blah, blah. And then he mentioned something about, you don't want to be old like father and be figuring it out or something like that. And it's like, you're having... deep conversations with these characters. The more like it starts as, yeah, I'm this guy from Australia and I like to take pictures, and then it's like just a conversation about like why he's moved all the way to here and all of those kind of things. and it gets interesting. Like that's why I'm invested in. Like I don't care about much of the other things because also the game, it doesn't seem it's gonna reward me. Like for example, the food thing. I don't know if you've done it. Like trying to aim what you're gonna eat for dinner.
To guess what you're...
Yeah, to like do it correctly.
I haven't guessed it correctly. No.
I have. So what I did is I tried to compare. I took a picture. I think I talked about this. Right, I took a picture before, and then when she was cooking, I took another picture and I compared and I guessed with that, and I failed. So I was like, that's because it's not like there are some specific thing missing. So I was like, maybe it's due to the ingredients that are there, like you mentioned. So what I started doing is just like going to her and just like choosing, because at the end I think she gives you 3 choices. So it's like,
yeah, it's always 3 choices.
I'm gonna do it right one time, and it has happened a couple times, I think, and nothing happens. She just like, you guess correct, and then it's like ding ding ding, and it sounds like a little sound, and that's it. She moves on.
And that's kind of the thing, that it's more work than it's worth, I guess.
Yeah.
The thing is, remember, I didn't know that you had to go talk to her after dinner to figure out if you guessed correctly. Because that's one thing. If I were making this game, and I am not, and will never be, that's one thing I would have done. Of like, if you got it right, she'll just mention it at dinner, and that's it. And
yeah, that makes a lot of sense to have a little story.
Yeah, just have a dialogue line that, they're always just standing around the table in like a neutral state, and if you have any lines to throw in there, you can before they go itadakimasu and just eat. So it's kind of it seems pretty trivial to do that, but because that's what happens. Like, even after you told me I had to do that, like a bunch of nights, I was just like, well, no, I want to go to the neighbor's house, and I want to do this, I want to do that. It's like, I'm not going to waste 3 screen transitions to just go and ask if I got dinner right.
Yeah. What else? I've done. Remember that I told you that I found 100 yen under the house? There is a conversation at some point about those being missing.
Oh, I didn't know. No, I don't.
Yeah, I found like if you swim below the house, there's like like the caps, and when you grab it, it says like, oh, it's 100 yen, and then I went and spent some, and then there's a conversation with the family. I haven't
spent my 50 yen from the massage yet.
Yeah, I think I've tried many. There's like a couple sweets, and then I saw that the most expensive was the soda of like the jet cap thing, and then I was like, do they give you one? And then they did, and I was like, oh, cool, I guess. But I haven't also done many. I think there's a moment where the girls came and like ate also like ice cream or something.
The yen thing reminds me, I think it's in the Boku No Natsuyasumi video that Tim Rogers talks about this, seeing this annoying American going through customs in Japan, and as soon as he and his wife are through customs, he sees a Coke machine, and he goes, 120 yen? Is that like $10 for a Coke? And I was just like, oh yeah, yen, man. I was like, how many is this? 50 yen? Was I exploited for this massage? It's not much. It's 50 cents for a massage.
Yeah, it's like almost nothing. Yeah.
It's less than 50 cents now that the yen is really weak, but
exactly.
I don't know how much. I think in 75, I think they were on an upward slope. Yeah, they were going towards that huge economic bubble of the 80s.
And also, like 500, like whatever money from the past is always more value than almost never the other way. Like compared to other currencies, it changes, but like compared to your own, it's always
yes. Compared to your own, inflation will always be in the upward. Yeah.
What else? I think there was a conversation about like money disappearing, and they blame one of the kids, and you don't say anything. I think, I don't know if this has happened to you, and there's been some conversations over the Discord about it, but at some point, and I don't remember the start, so we might get this sorted out. There is a narrator that comes on. I don't know if it has happened to you.
A what that comes?
Someone narrating stuff, like a voice of an adult Boku saying like, and I remember that happened that time, and I was doing this.
It happened. I think with Ghost Girl.
Probably.
Maybe Ghost Girl, yeah, but
there's a couple times that it happened. It happened to me with the money thing. With, like,
it was weird. It's kind of a Wonder Years kind of vibe. Yeah.
It's him on the future, like
it's a totally Wonder Years.
But I don't know if the start of the game they made it clear that it's you remembering that time. Like I don't remember how it opens enough to be like, oh, it's him.
I don't think so. Like as far as I remember, it just starts on the boat, there's any prelude of like, oh, in '75 I went to.
Yeah,
I don't think
that was my big question. Like, did they
I think
acknowledge
that's-
this, but it just happens randomly with a
I think that's
conversation?
a late writers' room edition of like, oh shit, we kind of need to.
You don't
a
need
line
to, but
here.
like at some point, for whatever reason, they wanted to.
Well, they
make
felt
them
they
work.
needed. They
Yeah.
felt they needed a
It's gonna
whole new
connect that
voice.
at the end, probably. Like you're gonna
Which
be
is-
there. Yeah.
It's probably one of the designers just going, well, okay, I guess I'll do it. I guess I'll record
Yeah,
it.
we'll do it on post. Like
It is the year 2002. Nobody's hiring actual actors.
Anyway, that was a conversation that happened because a lot of people were like, "Oh, that was jarring or something like that wasn't like." It's kind of weird that they did it.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine. I didn't care much for it.
Yeah, I think it's weird because it's just so sparse.
Yeah,
It's like
it just randomly
it wouldn't be
happened.
weird if the game kind of had this structure and kind of this narration.
Like every
throughout.
day is like, oh, and that happened that day. This
I
thing
think
I wrote in my diary happened.
Maybe if this was a Western game, it would be very narrated, and it would use that narration to kind of explain everything to you. Like, and then I grabbed my box where I could, and kind of tutorialize the whole experience for you, and maybe that would become boring. So I think that Japanese games are
It's
kind
kind of we'll see why that is important, I guess, in the future, because if nothing is related to that when it ends, kind of like that was a weird thing that they
I'm
did.
gonna bet nothing is related to that, and you're not. There's no epilogue with that narrator or anything. It's just I bet they just.
It's you and your kids from the future, like you're telling. It's like
No.
the How I
No.
Met Your Mother situation.
I think no. I think no. And that is an interesting question, and we'll come back to this in the next episode. But I really want to kind of like understand how or if being a dad is kind of coloring the way you look at the game and its story and its themes of like kind of
Yes.
like does it make you think of like how your kids' summer vacations are going to be?
Yes, exactly that. And I wanna continue that conversation, but I think it should be on the next episode
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we're taking.
But this is a
it's
teaser,
kinda-
so
Yeah, it's
people
a
are going
teaser
to
for the
I
next
got to
one,
come
but
back
yeah.
for that.
It's
Yep.
been in my mind like super strong, related to the thing that I mentioned on the first, that I'm kind of want to make a game like this that tells my upbringing and story, not my specific story, but like the things that I lived through, and
Right.
but it's moved in a way that I'm the father in that game, and it's like, and that's why it's coloring this experience as well, because I'm not a kid anymore. I have my own kids, and I'm. Well, yeah, we'll go deeper into that next time,
Yeah.
because it's something that is being really apparent to me as I play, of things that I lost, but things that I'm rediscovering through
Yeah.
having
And
my own kids.
I think that this is something we touched upon in the first episode because of that conversation between Tim Rogers and the Japanese developer that kind of didn't understand why someone not from Japan would be nostalgic about this kind of experience. But this game was already a letter from one generation to another. You know, this game was made by developers that probably were Boku's age in '75 in the late '90s, early 2000s. For people that were born after that, you know, even though I think this game was always geared more towards adults, I think it was adults that were like in their 20s in 2002, and you know, were not 10 years old in '75. So it was already kind of a conversation between two generations,
Yeah.
especially because you know, video games still skewed younger back then. You know, video games have gotten to skew older as people that played video games their whole lives gotten older. But by then, by the PlayStation 2's early lifespan, most of those people playing games that probably played this had been coming from like being kids in the 80s and early 90s.
Like Tim Rogers, right? Like and
Like
and
Tim
I think
Rogers,
It's
yeah.
one of those situations where like if I think you're right, like the developers were probably from those times or around those times, because in Japan it's pretty common that they keep working on games because it's where like it became huge and it was like a regular job for a long time.
Yep.
For like Nintendo and other places have like this old
Yeah,
developers,
just-
which is not really
just-
common in other places.
The fact that there are people that have been working for almost 25 years, more than 25 years on Boku No Natsuyasumi. You know, it's the same studio making those types of games now, and I bet, you know, dollars to donuts that there are people there that have
Yeah.
been pretty much, salary men for
and
25
are.
years, for their whole professional careers. They have been working in this studio on this type of video game. And it must be very interesting because some of those people must have grandchildren by now.
Yeah, they started to tell the story of like from a different time because they're like losing touch in a way, but like they have their kids and their kids' kids to like.
And eventually, the inevitable will be that at some point we or a new generation of people will be playing a Boku no Natsuyasumi game where one of the things you do during summer is play Boku no Natsuyasumi. Because like you're in your aunt's place and there's this old PlayStation console there and you're playing the first game inside the new game. So it certainly will be interesting to look at that. I know that for the first three games they stay in 1975 and I think 4 goes to 85. One of the first 4 games goes to 85, but that's as far as I know it goes. The Shin-Chan game is more modern than that because Shin-Chan as a character inhabits a more modern time, but is also kind of frozen in amber there. And the newest one, which is on Steam, I don't know exactly when that is.
I think it's called like 20th Century, so it should be modern-ish, right? Like
maybe it's not, maybe it's a 90s thing, maybe it's a 95. Kind of
something
vacation.
Like that. It doesn't seem to be like super modern, phone and internet. But
as soon as they give Boku a smartphone, we're done.
There's no summer anymore. It's just like
no
Roblox
summer. It's like it's August 1st, and then a little screen comes up. It's like August 30th. No, it's just it's done.
The eyes just red. And
it's like, oh, should I scroll the line? It's like, what are your objectives for today? Scroll 25
I'm gonna make
videos.
that game now. I'm gonna
make that game. It's just
a
virtual
new
phone.
Generations don't play in summers; they just watch their phones.
It's you scroll videos and then you click on the bug fighting app and you fight virtual bugs, and then everything you do is just in the app. You talk to a ghost girl on a chat app. It's everything so the whole game is just this mold of a hand holding a screen. Then your whole game takes place in that.
More story beats. Coming back to just closing thoughts. Let me see. There was, I don't know if you played around the 15-day. Actually, the monk. Day 14. On day 13, Mom mentioned that a monk was coming tomorrow. Monk.
Yes.
And then on day 14 he comes to the house and then you do some prayer and stuff. And then if you go to the graveyard, he's doing some prayer for the Hikari's family because they lost the mom and the ghost girl, but also like the father of the girls.
Yes.
There's a conversation at some point with the grandpa about that. Like you're not supposed to outlive your kids and stuff again, coming to this deeper sense. It's interesting because the monk is quite weird. It's kind of like a funny guy, and I think the mom mentions that also.
She does mention that.
Strange, yeah.
He's a quirky guy, and I think when that is first mentioned that he's coming over to do those things, I remember that I had read somewhere or seen something somewhere about that practice in Japan of having this kind of I think it's a yearly thing of where you have
a day of the dead kind of situation.
Yeah, that comes and kind of helps you just kind of remember the dead and things like that. But yeah, so that was interesting. It was one of the most specifically Japanese things that the game has, and it was interesting to see that incorporated.
I don't know if you remember exactly, but there's an animation of when he's preaching or whatever he's doing at the house, and then it cuts to the girls running from the beach to their house, and then it comes back to the house again oh, I'm done, blah blah blah. And I was that's a kind of weird animation to use to say that time passed, girls running from the beach to the house. And then if you go to the graveyard, the monk is there with them and you talk to them, they say, we almost missed this because we forgot that he was coming today. And we were at the beach. And that's why that's the animation that they play, is because it's it's a thing that they plan around that. Other things like that, I mentioned the father, the open areas. I have found the rocket pieces and I have given them to Io.
I have not.
Has happened yet. He's like, oh yeah, I have enough. So eventually maybe something happens. Through Googling and trying to find the manual, I found, because I beat the Beatles League a couple times, and he mentioned he opens another, when you finish it the first time, they welcome you into the club, because that's the thing that they tell you, like, you're not part of our club, but if you want to be, you have to beat us. And when you beat them, they're like, all right, you're part of the club. And they open a new area on the house, on the tree, which is just like a thing looking to the mountain. And you have a little conversation with the cousins about, like, that they know how to get there, but they're only gonna tell you if you beat them again, but like on the higher, like, ability or whatever. And I've been trying to, like, I remember you saying something that maybe was somewhere else. So I've been finding them everywhere, and they never did say that. And every time that I fight them and win, it's the same. So then when I was Googling the manual, I found something about that, and it says, like, after day 20 or something, or like the last days, they open this event of, like, now you have to, like, beat them, but it's this precise moment. And I remember in the Shinshan game, there was a tournament that had a date, and you could play with the kids for, like, they have a dinosaur, like, combat thing over in that game, and you can fight out all the days, but, like, the important one is the tournament, and it has a date and a time, and if you are not there and you don't win it, that's your only chance to win the tournament. If you win, like, you can win battles or other stuff and level up or whatever, but the only way to do the tournament is in that day. So I think it's kind of, like, related to this situation where they're like, it's gonna happen at some time specifically, and if you do it, so they give you little time to, like, explore the last piece of island, I think, for that. Other than that, I haven't, like, stories again, like, bits and pieces about, like, you the more you talk to them, the more you understand why they are there, how things happen, like the story of Hikaru's sister going away, the guitar girl also, like, kind of explaining what's happened. There is a weird thing that opened up recently. There is a conversation at dinner or breakfast about a robber. I think it happened on day 18 or 19. It was like a breakfast conversation about a robbery, because someone mentioned, like, oh, they only have 10 more days until they found the robber, or it's gonna go away. And I was like, what are you talking, like, what happened? And that's it. Like, and they continue. Itadakimasu, and they move on. And then at night, I went to the mom. What she was watching TV, and the TV looked like news, and it was different from, like, I think it, like, looked like soap operas or, like, anime stuff. So I clicked on it, and it was like a news, and they were like, they explained that there was a robbery that happened at some time somewhere, and not in the island specifically, somewhere in Japan, but it's gonna past the limit of, like, when you can prosecute or something, I guess, legally.
Right, just statute of limitations.
Something like that. I'm guessing it's something like that. So they're like, that's why they were discussing that it's only 10 days. So I think it's gonna happen at the end
cool.
of the month as well. And I'm like, that girl with the guitar is kind of sketchy. I don't know if she's hidden herself in this location.
Great. In two ways, that's great. One, it's great if they actually tie it into, like, her or one of the characters in the guest house, kind of like an Agatha Christie kind of way. But also because the fact that the game gives you the chance of, like, being exposed to that and relating it is a very childlike experience. Because one of the things that's missing from the game, and you know, it's fine. I understand why it's missing, is that such a huge part of being a kid, especially on summer vacation, is how your imagination just runs wild. So you might not be running into ghost girls and having beetle fights, but you are certainly thinking of scenarios as interesting as those, or even more interesting as a kid. So I think that having the opportunity for you to feel that and kind of, like, connect the dots in a way that a 10-year-old would also, like, maybe the robber is in here, you know, maybe the thief has come here to hide, is very interesting. I think that if it was intentional or not, I think that's a cool experience.
Thought, in general. And I think that's mostly it. I don't want to, like, be too... I obviously have seen a little bit more than you are, I think, about their story, so I don't want to, like, tell you or, like, tell the audience in case they want to, like, see. Maybe on the ending episode we're gonna
the ending, I think we're gonna spoil everything.
We can, like, have our own conversations about it and what had happened and stuff. But, like, I think that's mostly it. Like, I feel like, as you mentioned, like, I'm not as interested, and that's what I missed a couple days of like playing every day, because I know I mostly have seen the end of most of the arcs that have been set there. You know, like the Ghost Girl, the two teenagers that played, and the sister and the mom. All of those things are kind of like explained right now. The Wolfman is the only one that it's open right now. The beetle going up the mountain. I think that's mostly it. And from my perspective of the things that I've seen, I don't know if I missed something and I forgot. The grandfather has also like finished, seems like it's finished his stuff. He had a conversation about like he always wanted to have a grandson, and then Boku said like, I can be your grandson, and like I guess you can be. Yeah, like it's there's a lot of like heart into this. It's good storytelling in general. You know, like the characters are well defined, and like it makes it feels like you get to know them, which is like a great way of experiencing them. So that thing is still delivering, but I it kind of feel like I just want to, it's kind of when a TV show drags a little bit, and I just kind of want to see the end of the season, you know, like you just show me the thing and like stop like dragging it out, and just like, I think 30 days is too much for a game like this. But it's also I put myself in the position because I'm playing it really slow, so I'm like looking everywhere, so that's also not the way you should do it.
But that parallel with TV shows is really interesting, because I think that a lot of games have a pacing that is similar to a season of TV, and it reminds me of, like, especially with this game being from 2002, that we were, especially, you know, watching US shows, we were much used to shows having kind of this lull, because they used to be 22 episodes a season, and that it was much more about hanging out with these characters than having one very tight story progressing in 10 or 13 episodes. So I think that also reflects this kind of approach in video games, where certainly I know they're still making these games today as indies, but if this was an indie game today that was not informed by game design decisions and story decisions of the late 90s, this would be a much shorter game. This would not be 30 days, yes.
Like specifically for me, like the game that I want to make is 2 weeks. And it's just like, because I want you to play like the same system as them, like, you know, like a week of understanding your surroundings and a repetition of the week to like be able to do the stuff. I don't want to be as constrained as they are with the time in general. That's my general idea, but we'll figure out like if
I think that has everything to do with why television shows changed and why video games have changed, is because we now have access to way more TV shows because of on-demand and streaming. And same thing with games. We have access to way more games. They vary in price a whole lot. And people are looking for more, smaller experiences.
We have a lot of older players, gamers. Like, they have kids and jobs, and we have kids and jobs. So
exactly.
It's difficult to
the market was not as diverse back then to have options of like, well, this game is $90 and this game is $20 and this game is $15. It's like everything kind of had to cost on the upper end, which was over $60, especially if you correct for inflation back then. You know, like so when this game came out on the PlayStation, it could cost as much as, you know, any other AAA game that we're used to playing back then. So it kind of like, it makes sense also why you would have to deliver kind of this long, you know, 30-hour experience.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and again, like PlayStation 2 is one of those consoles that needed. It's when games started to become big. Because before PlayStation 1, I mean, it had big games, but it's also like there's a lot of arcade game format that's still there. But I think for PlayStation 2, it started to become more apparent. And there were like...
But it's also...
the indie idea started to happen there as well, like the smaller kind of
It certainly did. Because I think that's a very interesting thing about the PlayStation 2, where it is the last standard definition console. So you hadn't had the ballooning of costs of developing video games you get in the next generation, where everything needs to be HD, assets need to be higher res, everything takes a lot more money and time to be developed. So you have a certain kind of low budget game kind of disappear out of the ecosystem. And it also is the first console, especially in Japan, that happens when arcades are not the main output of a lot of these studios and these publishers. So, because, you know, the PlayStation 1 still is happening concurrent with arcades, and you have Tekken 3 that looks way better in arcades than it does on a PlayStation 1, things like that. But by the time PlayStation 2 rolls around, arcades outside of Japan are just not a thing anymore, really, not a going concern. And in Japan they are, but they're becoming this separate niche of like, okay, these very arcade specific experiences, these rhythm games, these racing games, things like that, Beat Mania, and at home you can have the more experimental, weird experiences that do not have to think about lives, continues, credits, all those constraints that still a lot of made for home games carried over from being designed by people experienced with that and being made in an industry that thought a lot like that. So you can finally have people going like, I don't know, Boku No Natsuyasumi. So it's of course the first one is a late PS game, but it's 2000. It's PlayStation 2's out. So I think what I said applies to what was going on at the time and how the zeitgeist kind of informs what this could be and why it's the best way to it could only kind of come up the way it is at that specific moment in time.
Yeah, I agree.
After that, it would be too late. Like, it would have to be like a PSN game, and it would be much smaller. And before that, there would be enough older gamers looking for that type of experience on a home console.
Which is something really interesting as a closing thought to like what I'm seeing with my game. Like we made some comments that it's not selling as much as we expected or needed or whatever. And there's been some conversation around it on like the socials, and it's interesting to see like a lot of other game devs and press people saying like, 10 years ago a game like this will have done really, really well, and like you'll have these big sites or like these big, not even streamers at the time maybe, but like this like places for like video games discussion, like talking about this game like all the time, like being like, this is gonna be everywhere and all that. And it's like just how things have changed with like that not being there anymore, and things change to like a more streamer space or like, and it seems like it's kind of like the bubble is bursting or something, and we're gonna see again a lot of like smaller podcasts and individuals doing their own blogs and stuff again, and maybe that makes some like become a press space like it happened before, and like more established and more controlled by the people that are doing the work instead of like a bigger corporation that just cares about numbers and etc. But like, like as you say, like this idea of a game comes a little bit later, and this studio doesn't survive in the same way that it did. It would have become something else if they continued, or like they might have even failed and not exist anymore.
I think what another recent thing that illustrates the difference of the scenario really out there for indie games right now is that we just got Braid remastered out recently, and that game was a huge thing for indie games back when it first came out. Yeah. Whenever that was, like 11 years ago, or whatever. Over more than that, I think.
It was like a 15th anniversary or something, right?
Yeah, 15 years ago, maybe. Yeah, but so and that the remaster sold really poorly, and I think a lot of that is also related to how people view Jonathan Blow now. And it's very different than how we saw him back then. So a lot of the people that were aware of what Braid was and liked it back then are people that have just fallen off of liking his work and buying his work, and a lot of those people actually, there's a lot of people out there also saying that I've played it. Like, it's not a game I want to play again. Like, it's a very one and done kind of experience, and I'm on that boat. Like, I downloaded it on Steam to kind of try it out, and I just never did. And the remaster, I just never
and
played
I think
it.
That's a little different conversation, because it's just like some people were saying something like if Braid came out today, it would have worked. And debatable, maybe it will, maybe it wouldn't. But like, it came at a time where like it like being an indie was kind of not common, and it also added a lot. But like nowadays, it's not even like I played it, but also if I want to play it again, the original one, it's still I have it. I don't have to buy
it holds up. Like you don't
still
need
kind of the same.
The one thing that I wanted to play the remaster for was the commentary, because
Yeah.
it sounded interesting to me how they integrated it. But then I realized, like, do I want to listen to hours of Jonathan Blow just blowing hot air?
Yeah, I want to
not really.
myself. Yeah.
Exactly. How much free time do I really have? And then we decided to do this, and I was like, nah, I'd rather play Boku than do this. But what I think is it also benefited from, one, not a lot of indie games were on consoles back then. And the big thing about Braid is that it came out in Xbox Live Arcade. You had 2 games a week, and that was it. So it was a big deal.
Was way more attention to
you got a huge marketing push from Microsoft, and also, just like you said, you had very big video game press outlets that would talk about you. So now, if you want new people to play Braid, you would need to have that healthy ecosystem around it, with people going, with an editorial behind it, going, hey, this is an interesting thing you might want to check out, to bring new players in. So I think it came out, not good marketing around it, a very different press environment than what it saw in 2009, and the people that were already exposed to it already knew what it was, were not really interested in doing that again.
Yeah.
So that's why now we will never have Fast 2. Because now, even if that guy wants to make it, it's no one's gonna play it.
Yeah, and it's a. I mean, there's still indies are still like doing really well now. You have Balatro. That
but you're not gonna get attention just for being an indie.
Yeah, no. At this point, what I've seen, because I come from mobile, which this hasn't been known for a long time. Like since almost the start of the App Store and all of those, the conversation was always like, there's hundreds of games released daily or whatever. But like there was a moment in time where like consoles and Steam, and it's not even like break time, where like, as you say, like 2 games every like months or whatever. There was a time where there weren't many releases in those places, and it meant that it was something of quality, and it you needed to pay attention to it in a way as a consumer. But nowadays, I saw recently something about like there are like 30 to 50 games releasing daily on Steam.
Yeah,
that means that it's like insane. Thousands a year, and it's not the same on consoles, but it's still pretty. Like we've been for like years saying, like us old gamers been saying, like there's no time to play. Like if you see like the game of the year list or whatever, like it's impossible to play everything.
Totally.
Like even if you play like a couple games a month, it's still not enough to play the best that released in that year, and it's certainly not enough to allow these creators to keep creating.
Yeah,
but we'll see. Like things are changing. Things are like it's finding its own thing. Eventually, things will settle, and we'll see what's the future of like games in general look like. Yeah, because we're changing consoles. Some have changed, like PlayStation changed, but like not a lot of people are saying like, what is the point of having a PS5? Xbox is kind of like, it's not a brand that matters that much, because like it's PC as well, and then you have Nintendo like still grabbing that old tablet-like device and seeing like this is still matters, and like just waiting a little bit until they send the new one, and we'll see what it is. So it's an interesting time, so definitely.
So totally, yeah. You're reminding me, like I started writing about video games in 2006, and so it was right at the tail end. When I started, my references were really GameSpot and places like that, and 1UP, places that really covered everything that came out. Yeah. And so it was really soon after that I had to realize that, I'm never going to be able to do that. If I try to stretch myself to like play everything that comes out that's kind of relevant, it's not going to happen. And that's kind of like it started happening around then. So which is exactly the transition out of PS2 into Xbox 360 and all of that. So it ties back into Boku No Natsuyasumi. It ties back into the Boku Diaries. Tie back to this place wherever you're listening or watching this, be it on YouTube or on podcast platforms. Come back for an awesome wrap-up episode of the Boku Diaries. In the beginning of September, actually, I was going to tell you that I'm going on a trip for work next Tuesday, and I'll be back on the 6th, which is a Friday. So maybe we'll record it on the 6th or a little bit after that. But, early September, we're going to be back here to talk about our August adventures with Boku. I'll see you there.
Bring someone else. We'll see if because other people are maybe playing and finishing at the same time. It's easier to wrap it up with thoughts and have a
It would be interesting, yeah.
yeah. We'll see if we can find someone. If you're listening to this and you play the game and you think you can have a conversation with us about it at the end,
Yeah, let us know.
let us know.
Throw us
And
a
if
comment.
it-
Talk
it
to
is-
us
yeah.
on Twitter.
And if not, and it's only a comment to say like, "Hey, I listened to you and I like this conversation," do that too. Like it.
Yes,
It's,
also
it's cool
that
to know that
we
it's
like-
somewhere there. The
Yes.
conversation amongst ourselves is good. Like I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
But like if
but-
somebody else, we're putting it out there in case someone
Yep.
else finds it interesting, and just let us know.
Totally. And buy Arco.
And buy Arco, please.
窓を閉じて呼びかけたままで夢は積も